Bullies call him Short King. He turned into their worst nightmare. Marcus Rivera stood barely 5 feet 2 inches in his worn sneakers, making him one of the shortest 17-year-olds at Westfield High School. His compact frame and quiet demeanor made him nearly invisible as he navigated the crowded hallways each morning, clutching his backpack straps like lifelines. Dark hair fell across his brown eyes, a curtain he used to avoid the stares and snickers that followed him everywhere. What nobody at Westfield knew was that Marcus had spent the last 8 years training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai at his uncle's gym across town. Every evening after school, he transformed from the quiet kid everyone overlooked into a disciplined fighter who could take down opponents twice his size. His uncle, a former professional fighter, had taught him that true strength came from discipline and knowing when not to fight. "Never use your skills unless someone's life is in danger," his uncle always said. "The moment you fight for pride, you become no better than a common thug." So Marcus endured. He endured because he believed in something bigger than momentary satisfaction. The torment began on his first day at Westfield, when he'd transferred mid-semester after his mother's job relocation. In the cafeteria, as he searched for an empty table, a voice boomed across the room. "Look what washed up on shore." The voice belonged to Tyler Bradshaw, a 6'2" linebacker with arms like tree trunks and a cruel smile that never reached his ice-blue eyes. Tyler's crew followed him everywhere. Jake Morrison, a lanky redhead with acne scars and a nasty tongue, and Derek Santos, whose stocky build and permanent scowl made him Tyler's perfect enforcer. Is that supposed to be a high schooler, or did someone's little brother get lost? Jake's nasal voice cut through the cafeteria chatter, drawing snickers from nearby tables. Marcus kept walking, pretending he hadn't heard. His jaw clenched as he found a corner table, but he forced himself to eat slowly, methodically. Don't react. Don't give them what they want. But Tyler wasn't finished. The big blonde approached Marcus's table, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. "Hey, Short King, I'm talking to you." Marcus looked up, meeting Tyler's gaze with steady brown eyes. "I'm just trying to eat my lunch." "Oh, listen to that little squeaky voice," Derek laughed, causing heads to turn throughout the cafeteria. "Sounds like he hasn't hit puberty yet." The humiliation burned in Marcus's chest, but he swallowed it down with his sandwich. He'd survived worse than high school bullies. He could survive this too. The pattern established itself quickly. In the hallways between classes, Tyler would shoulder-check Marcus into lockers, always making it look accidental. In gym class, Jake would accidentally trip him during basketball, sending Marcus sprawling across the polished floor, while Coach Henderson looked the other way. Derek specialized in psychological warfare, spreading rumors about Marcus's height, his clothes, his family's financial situation. "I heard Short King's mom has to shop in the kids' section for his clothes," Derek would announce loudly whenever Marcus passed. "That explains why everything looks so tight on him." The other students rarely intervened. Some looked uncomfortable, others pretended not to notice, but most simply watched with the morbid fascination of spectators at a car crash. Teachers seemed equally reluctant to get involved, treating the daily harassment as typical teenage behavior that would eventually sort itself out. Marcus's internal dialogue became a constant battle. "I could end this in 30 seconds, he would think, as Tyler shoved him aside at his locker. One takedown, one submission hold, and this ends. But then he'd hear his uncle's voice. "Real warriors protect, they don't dominate." The harassment escalated gradually. What started as verbal taunts progressed to physical intimidation. Tyler began following Marcus to his classes, looming over him menacingly. Jake would knock books from Marcus's hands in the hallway, scattering papers across the floor, while students stepped around the mess without helping. Derek discovered that Marcus rode the city bus home and began waiting at the bus stop to continue the torment into Marcus's commute. "Look at Short King waiting for his ride," Derek would call out. attracting attention from other students. Bet he needs a booster seat to see out the window. 3 weeks into the semester, the bullying reached a new level. Marcus was washing his hands in the second-floor bathroom when Tyler, Jake, and Derek entered like predators cornering their prey. The bathroom was empty except for them, the perfect setting for escalation. "Well, well, if it isn't our favorite little buddy," Tyler said, his voice echoing off the tile walls. "Been avoiding us lately, Short King?" Marcus dried his hands slowly, calculating distances to the door. "I haven't been avoiding anyone." "See? That's where you're wrong." Jake stepped closer, blocking one potential exit route. "You've been real rude, not saying hi to your friends." Derek moved to block the other side. "Maybe we need to teach you some manners." They surrounded him, 3 large bodies forming a triangle of intimidation. Marcus felt his heart rate increase, but not from fear, from restraint. Every instinct screamed at him to act, to use the skills that could neutralize all 3 in under a minute. Instead, he tried to push past them. Tyler's hand slammed against Marcus's chest, shoving him backward into the sink. "Where do you think you're going, little man?" The push wasn't particularly violent, but it was the first time they'd moved beyond verbal harassment to actual physical contact. Marcus felt something shift inside him, a door opening that he'd kept carefully locked. "Please," Marcus said quietly. "I don't want any trouble." Too late for that, Derek grabbed Marcus's backpack and upended it, sending books, papers, and supplies scattering across the wet bathroom floor. Oops, Butterfingers. As Marcus knelt to collect his scattered belongings, Jake stepped forward and placed his foot on Marcus's calculus textbook. "Leave it. Consider it payment for being such an annoying little pest." That afternoon, Marcus called his uncle from the school parking lot. "Uncle Rico, I need to ask you something." "What's up, mijo?" "The rule about not fighting unless someone's life is in danger. What if they're trying to destroy your life instead of end it?" Rico was quiet for a long moment. "That's a dangerous line of thinking, Marcus. What's happening at school?" Marcus told him everything: the daily harassment, the public humiliation, the bathroom incident. Rico listened without interrupting. "And you haven't fought back at all?" "No, sir. I've followed your teachings." "Good. But Marcus, there's something else I taught you. A warrior doesn't seek conflict, but he doesn't run from it when it finds him. If these boys push it to violence, you defend yourself. But you be smart about it." "What do you mean?" "You make sure everyone sees who threw the first real punch. You make sure you only use enough force to end the threat. And you make sure they understand that continuing this path will only bring them more pain." That evening, Marcus trained harder than he had in months. He worked the heavy bag until his knuckles were raw, practiced his takedowns until his muscles ached, and meditated on the difference between justice and revenge. He wasn't looking for a fight, but if one found him, he would be ready. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday morning in the school cafeteria. Marcus sat at his usual corner table, eating a sandwich his mother had packed, when he heard familiar laughter approaching. Tyler, Jake, and Derek surrounded his table with predatory grins. "Morning, Short King," Tyler said loud enough for half the cafeteria to hear. "Mommy pack your lunch in a cute little lunchbox?" Marcus continued eating, not looking up. The cafeteria gradually quieted as students sensed the approaching confrontation. "I asked you a question, little buddy," Tyler's voice hardened. "I heard you," Marcus replied calmly. Jake reached across and grabbed Marcus's sandwich, holding it above his head. "Look, guys, it's cut into little triangles, just like for a kindergartner." "Give it back," Marcus said, finally looking up. "Or what?" Derek laughed. "You gonna tell the teacher?" Tyler leaned forward, placing both hands on Marcus's table. "Here's what's gonna happen, Short King. You're gonna get up and walk away, and you're gonna keep walking until you find somewhere else to eat lunch. This is our cafeteria now." The entire room was watching now. Teachers at the faculty table glanced over but made no move to intervene. Students held their breath. Marcus felt the weight of 100 stares, the pressure of 3 months of accumulated humiliation, and the certainty that this moment would define how he was treated for the rest of his time at Westfield. They've made their choice, Marcus thought. Now I make mine. No, Marcus said quietly. The single word hit the cafeteria like a thunderclap. Tyler's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Excuse me? Marcus stood slowly, his compact frame dwarfed by Tyler's imposing height. I said no. This is where I eat lunch. If you don't like it, you can leave. Jake burst into laughter. Did the little mouse just roar? Sit down, Short King, before you embarrass yourself, Derek added. But something in Marcus's posture had changed. His shoulders were straight, his stance balanced, his hands relaxed at his sides. Students later said there was something different about his eyes, a stillness that made them uncomfortable. Tyler apparently missed these subtle signs. He reached out to shove Marcus backward into his chair. That was his mistake. Marcus moved like liquid lightning. As Tyler's hand approached his chest, Marcus stepped slightly to the side, grabbed Tyler's wrist with both hands, and used the bigger boy's forward momentum against him. In one fluid motion, he pivoted and threw Tyler over his shoulder in a perfect judo throw that sent the linebacker crashing into the table behind them with a thunderous impact that shook the entire cafeteria. The room erupted in gasps and screams. Tyler lay stunned among scattered lunch trays, his eyes wide with shock and pain. Jake reacted first, charging at Marcus with his fists raised. You little freak. Marcus ducked under Jake's wild swing, stepped inside his guard, and delivered a precise uppercut to Jake's solar plexus that dropped him to his knees, gasping for air. Before Jake could recover, Marcus spun behind him and applied a rear naked choke, not tight enough to cause unconsciousness, but firm enough to control him completely. Stop fighting and this stops, Marcus said calmly into Jake's ear. Derek hesitated, suddenly uncertain. Tyler was struggling to get up. Jake was trapped and helpless, and Marcus looked completely in control. But Derek's pride wouldn't let him back down in front of the entire school. He charged. Marcus released Jake, who crumpled forward and turned to face Derek's rush. This time he didn't try to redirect or control. As Derek reached for him, Marcus exploded upward with an uppercut that connected cleanly with Derek's jaw, spinning him around and sending him sprawling across the cafeteria floor. The entire confrontation had lasted less than 30 seconds. Tyler finally made it to his feet, his face red with embarrassment and rage. You're dead, you little freak. You're dead. He rushed at Marcus with no technique, just blind fury. Marcus waited until the last second, then sidestepped and caught Tyler's arm as he passed. Using Tyler's own momentum, Marcus spun him around and drove him face first into the cinderblock wall with a sickening thud. Tyler slumped to the floor, dazed and bleeding from his nose. Marcus stood in the center of the cafeteria, surrounded by overturned tables and his 3 defeated tormentors. His breathing was steady, his clothes barely wrinkled. He looked around at the stunned faces watching him. Anyone else think they need to put me in my place? His voice carried across the silent room. No one spoke. No one moved. Marcus walked calmly back to his table, picked up what remained of his lunch, and sat down to finish eating. The cafeteria remained frozen in tableau around him. Principal Williams arrived within minutes, along with 2 security guards and the school nurse. Tyler required stitches for his nose. Jake was still having trouble breathing normally, and Derek had a bruised jaw that would keep him on a liquid diet for a week. Mr. Rivera, Principal Williams said, his voice tight with controlled anger, my office, now. Marcus finished his sandwich, wiped his hands on his napkin, and stood. As he walked toward the cafeteria exit, the crowd of students parted before him like the Red Sea. He could hear whispers following in his wake. Did you see how fast he moved? Where did he learn to fight like that? Tyler never saw it coming. Remind me never to mess with short guys. In the principal's office, Marcus sat quietly while Principal Williams paced behind his desk. The three bullies were in the nurse's office being treated for their injuries. This is completely unacceptable behavior, Mr. Rivera. I don't care what led up to it. Violence is never the answer. They surrounded me, Marcus said calmly. Tyler put his hands on me first. I was defending myself. 3 students are injured because of you. 3 students are injured because they decided to attack someone they thought couldn't fight back. Principal Williams stopped pacing. Something in Marcus's tone made him look more carefully at the small student sitting across from him. There was no bravado, no teenage defiance, just calm certainty. The security cameras will show exactly what happened, Marcus continued. They'll show 3 months of harassment that your teachers and staff ignored. They'll show Tyler making the first physical contact. They'll show me defending myself against 3 attackers. The principal's phone buzzed. He answered it, listened for a moment, then hung up with a troubled expression. That was security. They've reviewed the footage. He sat down heavily. You're right about who initiated physical contact. Marcus nodded. I've been documenting everything since I started here. Dates, times, witnesses. I have 3 months of evidence showing a pattern of harassment and intimidation that escalated to physical assault. Why didn't you report it? I did. I told Mrs. Henderson in guidance. I told Coach Peterson. I even told you, sir, when I came to your office 6 weeks ago about Tyler following me to my classes. You said boys will be boys and that I needed to toughen up. Principal Williams winced. He remembered the conversation now. The small, quiet boy who'd seemed so timid, so easily dismissed. Mr. Rivera, I owe you an apology. The school failed you. But this level of violence was exactly what was required to end the threat, Marcus interrupted. I used the minimum force necessary to protect myself from 3 larger attackers. If you want to discuss excessive violence, we should talk about 3 months of psychological torture that your staff allowed to continue. The aftermath was swift and decisive. The security footage was damning. It showed not just the cafeteria confrontation, but weeks of hallway incidents, bathroom harassment, and deliberate intimidation that staff had witnessed and ignored. Tyler, Jake, and Derek were suspended for 2 weeks and required to attend anger management counseling. Several teachers received formal reprimands for failing to address the bullying. Marcus received a 1-day in-school suspension as a formality, which he spent reading in the library. The change in school dynamics was immediate and dramatic. Students who had never spoken to Marcus before nodded respectfully when they passed him in the halls. Teachers looked at him with new eyes, seeing not a victim, but someone who had taken control of his situation. The 3 bullies returned from suspension subdued and careful. Tyler's nose had healed crooked, giving him a permanent reminder of his mistake. Jake walked with slightly hunched shoulders, unconsciously protecting the ribs that still ached when he breathed deeply. Derek's jaw clicked when he chewed, a sound that would follow him for months. They gave Marcus a wide berth, never speaking to him, never making eye contact. Their reign of terror was over, their reputation as tough guys shattered by 30 seconds of brutal efficiency. 2 weeks after the cafeteria incident, Marcus was eating lunch at his usual table when Tyler approached alone. The cafeteria tensed, expecting round 2, but Tyler's body language was different, defeated, respectful. Rivera, Tyler said quietly, not sitting down. Can I talk to you? Marcus looked up from his book. Go ahead. I wanted to say, Tyler struggled with the words. I wanted to apologize. For all of it. The things we said, the way we treated you. It was wrong. Marcus studied him for a moment. Tyler's confidence was gone, replaced by genuine remorse and something that might have been fear. Apology accepted, Marcus said simply. Tyler nodded and started to turn away, then stopped. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you fight back sooner? You could have ended this any time. Marcus closed his book and looked directly at Tyler. Because I was hoping you'd figure out on your own that what you were doing was wrong. I was hoping you'd grow up without needing to get hurt first. Tyler's face reddened. I'm sorry I disappointed you. You didn't disappoint me, Tyler. You taught me something important. What's that? Sometimes people need to face consequences before they can change. And sometimes being kind means showing someone what those consequences look like. Tyler nodded slowly and walked away. He never bothered anyone at Westfield again. Marcus finished his junior and senior years at Westfield High in peace. He joined the wrestling team, where his grappling skills made him a state champion in his weight class. He tutored younger students who were being bullied, teaching them not just self-defense, but self-respect. He graduated valedictorian and earned a full scholarship to study engineering. At graduation, Principal Williams made a point of shaking Marcus's hand personally. "You taught us all something important, Mr. Rivera," the principal said. "Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should never underestimate." Marcus smiled. "And sometimes the smallest person has the biggest heart. You just have to be careful not to break it." Years later, when people asked Marcus about his high school experience, he would tell them that he learned two crucial lessons at Westfield: that kindness should never be mistaken for weakness, and that standing up for yourself doesn't require becoming the thing you hate. He still practiced martial arts every day, still believed in using minimum necessary force, still taught his students that true strength comes from discipline and control. But he also taught them that there comes a moment when you must choose between being a victim and being victorious.